The immaterium writhes endlessly, a dark, boiling ocean of madness, pressing heavily against the fragile veil of the material universe. Reality fractures completely, tearing apart like ancient, brittle parchment under the crushing, suffocating weight of unnatural malice and impossible geometries. A foul tempest howls fiercely through the jagged breach, carrying the suffocating toxic stench of burning sulfur and decaying nebulas across the ruined landscape. Monstrous entities pull themselves violently from the raw warp, clawing at the shattered stone floors, utterly desperate to consume the Emperor's fading light. The temperature plummets instantly across the chamber, freezing the moisture in the contaminated air into jagged, hazardous crystals of unnatural black ice. Then the oppressive darkness violently shatters. A blinding flare of pure, incandescent silver erupts fiercely from the howling void, accompanied by the deafening crack of displaced atmosphere. Giants materialize forcefully from the blinding teleportation strike, their massive, imposing forms clad securely in pristine, unyielding silver ceramite armor. They stand firmly as an impenetrable wall of devotion, their very physical presence radiating a blinding, protective aura of absolute psychic purity. These are no ordinary warriors of the Adeptus Astartes. They are the Emperor's ultimate, unyielding sanction, descending upon the encroaching nightmare with cold precision. Brilliant arcs of cerulean psychic lightning dance violently across the polished steel blades of their massive Nemesis Force halberds, illuminating the gloom. With singular, synchronized intent, the giants raise their wrist-mounted storm bolters, immediately unleashing a deafening, relentless torrent of explosive mass-reactive shells. The roaring volley tears through the unnatural flesh of the warp spawn, violently banishing their dark essence back into the screaming void. No physical corpses remain upon the stone, only twisting clouds of dark, toxic ash, and the lingering sharp scent of thoroughly purified ozone. The knights advance flawlessly, an unstoppable tide of righteous fury, their heavy mechanical boots crushing the glowing embers of the fallen. Draw closer to the glow, my devoted acolytes, and heed the hushed, vital words of your most humble, obedient servant. I slowly trace my trembling, withered fingers across the brittle, uneven edges of these forbidden ancient vellum scrolls, feeling the weight of history. We sit entombed within the deepest, most secure subterranean vaults of the Inquisition, shielded by reinforced plascrete and eternal silence. The flickering yellow candlelight barely pushes back the encroaching shadows, reflecting sharply off the polished chrome plating of hovering, vigilant servo skulls. These crumbling physical archives conceal devastating truths, dark hidden realities that would easily shatter the fragile sanity of trillions of unprepared Imperial citizens. I read strictly from the shadowed records tonight, translating the cryptic, glowing runes that officially document the universe's most unspeakable events. I speak of a secret brotherhood existing entirely beyond the desperate, fleeting gaze of standard Imperial comprehension and basic logical understanding. They are a phantom legion, a specialized elite force moving completely unseen through the bleeding wounds of our dying galaxy. I speak respectfully of Chapter 666, the absolute, highly classified, militant arm of the holy Ordo Malleus. They are the revered Grey Knights, the silver-clad ultimate saviors of humanity's precarious future, operating eternally from the deepest shadows. They bear the purest, most incorruptible gene seed in existence, a profound genetic legacy whispered to originate from the Emperor himself. Their secretive fortress monastery stands completely hidden beneath the frozen, methane-swept surface of Titan, a desolate moon orbiting a massive gas giant. The massive Gothic spires of their imposing citadel plunge deep into the icy crust, perfectly concealed from all prying external eyes. Colossal hexagrammic wards pulse continuously with immense unseen power, forming an impenetrable psychic shield around the entire frozen planetary body. These complex defensive grids repel the hateful gaze of the ruinous powers, strictly ensuring the absolute secrecy of the chapter's covert operations. Within those frozen, echoing halls, massive, dedicated choirs of blind astropaths constantly sing complex, resonant hymns of massive psychic disruption. Their combined voices create a harmonized frequency of pure devotion, a flawless sonic barrier against the insidious whispers of the dark abyss. The thick walls of the citadel are constructed from solid obsidian and reinforced adamantium, deeply inscribed with millions of microscopic prayers of warding. Every dark corridor, every subterranean training vault, and every armory is heavily sanctified, washed constantly in the holy light of artificial chained suns. Consider the sheer technological mastery and profound spiritual perfection of their magnificent, personalized war gear, designed for the ultimate eternal war. The thick Aegis Terminator armor they wear proudly is a forgotten marvel of ancient science and highly forbidden, complex psychic engineering. The heavy silver ceramite plates are seamlessly interlaced with complex crystalline neural networks, directly linking the warrior's brilliant mind to the suit's motive systems. When a gray knight marches into the fray, the heavy servos hum with a predatory frequency, a mechanical growl of impending, absolute judgment. Intricate sigils of banishment are permanently and deeply etched into the gleaming metallic surface of every massive pauldron and reinforced breastplate. These holy sigils glow with an intense, inner cerulean light whenever the foul, sickening taint of the warp draws dangerously near. Their signature armaments, the crackling Nemesis force weapons, are masterful, highly lethal conduits designed specifically for their wielder's massive, innate psychic might. The sharp blades are forged manually from the rarest psychoreactive metals, meticulously folded and tempered in the intense fires of holy plasma. When channeled with absolute, unbreakable willpower, the blessed metal crackles with devastating energy, capable of effortlessly severing the dark connection between demon and reality. A single, focused strike does not merely break the physical form, it violently and permanently obliterates the entity's dark spiritual anchor. But you must clearly understand the terrible, necessary price of their supreme combat effectiveness and their flawless, unyielding galactic victories. To witness the Grey Knights engaged in open combat is to gaze directly into the blinding, unfiltered truth of the apocalyptic demonic threat. Ordinary human minds are simply not equipped to physically process the raw existence of the immaterium's denizens without instantly and irreversibly shattering. Therefore, the absolute, critical secrecy of the Grey Knights is permanently maintained through harsh, uncompromising, and brutal protocols of mass civilian erasure. Entire regiments of loyal soldiers, brave men and women who fought valiantly alongside the Silver Giants, face mandatory, total psychic memory wipe-downs. Those deemed too mentally compromised by the prolonged demonic exposure are swiftly, mercilessly purged to firmly prevent the rapid spread of chaotic corruption. The Grey Knights leave absolutely no living witnesses, operating efficiently as anonymous, faceless saviors who must often turn their holy weapons upon the very people they protect. It is a heavy, deeply sorrowful duty, performed efficiently without hesitation, driven completely by cold, systemic necessity and absolute devotion. As I slowly turn this decaying, fragile page, the faint, mechanical hum of the archive's large ventilation systems seems to deepen into a threatening, guttural growl. The deep shadows congregating in the sharp corners of this underground room stretch and twist unnaturally, reacting violently to the forbidden, classified words I have spoken. The endless darkness is always actively listening, always patiently waiting for a single, fleeting moment of fatal weakness to finally consume us all. The deep shadows congregating in the sharp corners of this underground room stretch and twist unnaturally. They do not merely lengthen, they tear the physical fabric of the chamber apart. A jagged rift rips open violently, suddenly spewing forth a noxious, blinding cloud of ionized sulfur and crushing atmospheric pressure. Reality groans heavily and fractures entirely under the sudden, immense weight of a greater demon stepping into the material plane. Massive hooves strike the metallic floor grating, severely denting the reinforced adamantium plates. A colossal horned skull lowers slowly through the breach, exuding a suffocating, freezing aura of pure malice. The towering entity breathes deeply, exhaling a raging storm of warp fire that instantly scorches the surrounding ancient architecture. Unnatural, pale flames lick the towering stone pillars, melting the rock into a foul sludge. The localized temperature spikes violently, instantly overloading the chamber's complex environmental sensors. It steps fully into the world, towering ominously. Thick, hardened scales cover its hulking frame, grinding against each other with the deafening sound of shifting tectonic plates. It raises a massive, serrated blade, forged entirely from crystallized agony and concentrated despair. In direct, immediate response, the silver giants initiate their lethal combat sequences without a single spoken word. Heavy, ceramite gauntlets rack the slides of their massive storm bolters in perfect, synchronized unison. The heavy, metallic clack of adamantium mechanisms locking firmly into place echoes sharply through the devastated hall. Purity seals flutter wildly, caught in the violent, localized atmospheric displacement. Massive, mechanical servos whine with power as the knights drop smoothly into their braced combat stances. Thick, armored power cables pulse rhythmically, constantly feeding raw, blazing energy from their back-mounted fusion plants directly into their blessed armaments. Supreme Grand Master Kaldor Draigo steps forward to firmly anchor the defensive line. His ancient Terminator plate, a walking relic of an older age, gleams with cold defiance against the abyssal tide. He grips the ornate hilt of the Titan sword securely, his knuckles locked tight against the dark leather. The mighty weapon wakes violently from its slumber. Searing, cerulean energy cascades rapidly down the long, perfectly balanced silver blade. The air around the weapon warps and distorts heavily, ozone stinging the nostrils as the psycho-reactive metal hums. Draigo evaluates the monstrous adversary with cold, absolute, tactical precision. His advanced ocular sensors rapidly overlay tracking reticles across the demon's heavily armored hide. cogitator banks within his helmet rapidly calculate structural weaknesses, processing millions of combat variables in a fraction of a second. "Sanctify this ground," Draigo commands firmly, his deep voice heavily modulated by the helmet's integrated vocalizers. The order cuts sharply through the chaotic, maddening howling of the warp rift. The strike squad responds immediately, advancing with the synchronized, flawless precision of a single, massive organism. Heavy boots slam fiercely against the stone floor, shaking the deep foundations. They march relentlessly forward in a tight, interlocking wedge formation, presenting an impenetrable, shining wall of layered ceramite and overlapping kinetic fields. The hum of their active aegis fields harmonizes instantly into a deafening, protective drone. The greater demon roars aggressively, unleashing an ear-splitting shockwave of raw sonic force. The destructive kinetic impact ripples visibly through the dense air, striking the night's layered protective barriers with terrifying momentum. Bright sparks shower violently from the invisible energy shields as the deafening demonic scream dissipates completely against their unyielding iron faith. The entity charges aggressively, crossing the vast chamber with terrifying, impossible speed. Its massive footfalls shatter the ancient tiling, kicking up dense, suffocating clouds of pulverized masonry. The serrated blade arcs downward sharply, intending to cleave the entire formation in a single, devastating stroke. Draigo intercepts the colossal strike seamlessly. He raises his heavy storm shield, bracing his heavily armored frame against the floor. The demonic blade collides violently with the crackling energy field. The sheer kinetic force of the impact creates a localized shockwave, blowing away the surrounding dust. A blinding flash of violently conflicting energies erupts precisely at the point of contact. The solid ground beneath Draigo's boots fractures deeply, forming a wide crater of pulverized stone. Yet, the Supreme Grand Master holds his ground firmly, an immovable pillar of silver. Retaliation arrives instantly from the squad. The remaining knights open fire simultaneously. Hundreds of mass reactive shells eject rapidly from the heavy barrels, trailing bright, hot exhaust plumes. The explosive rounds strike the demon's thick hide directly, detonating with concussive force and blinding flashes. Chunks of unnatural armor splinter and fly outward violently. The beast recoils sharply, its forward momentum broken by the relentless, punishing barrage. No life fluid spills upon the floor. Instead, dark, volatile mist violently vents from the ruptured scales. A purgation squad member steps out smoothly from the defensive formation. He hefts a massive psycannon, an intricate weapon constructed of blessed alloys and rare psychoconductive filaments. Internal magnetic coils whine with increasing pitch as the heavy weapon cycles up to maximum output. He unleashes a sustained torrent of pure, concentrated psychic energy. The incandescent beam strikes the demon squarely in its broad chest. The sheer intensity of the blast incinerates the unnatural matter completely, burning away the corruption. The monstrosity shrieks terribly as the sanctified flames aggressively consume its dark essence. It lashes out blindly with a massive, heavily clawed hand. The physical strike connects directly. Bright sparks rain down heavily as ceramite grinds violently against the uneven stone. The knight stabilizes his combat stance quickly, internal servos automatically adjusting for the sudden displacement. Other, lesser entities begin to pour rapidly through the widening, unstable warp rift. Grotesque horrors composed entirely of shifting shadows and jagged teeth swarm the chamber. The Grey Knights transition seamlessly to close-quarters combat protocols. Nemesis force swords ignite simultaneously, leaving bright trails of blue fire in the oppressive gloom. They carve cleanly through the swarming masses with precise, economical movements, expunging the lesser demons with every calculated strike. Each banished entity bursts instantly into a thick cloud. A horrific, multi-limbed creature lunges aggressively from the ceiling. Without looking, the Supreme Grand Master pivots sharply on his heel, driving the heavy pommel upward forcefully. The battle devolves rapidly into a grueling, relentless test of physical endurance. Mechanical joints hiss loudly, venting excess heat from continuous heavy exertion. Ammunition feeds click rapidly as fresh belts of bolt rounds are automatically cycled into the weapons. Ejected brass casings rain down heavily upon the floor. The greater demon recovers slowly from the devastating Psychanon blast. Its physical form shifts and bulges unnaturally, attempting to knit the damaged flesh back together. It fixes its burning, hateful gaze directly upon Draigo. It swings its massive weapon horizontally, a sweeping blow intended to clear the immediate area. Draigo ducks smoothly beneath the lethal arc, stepping inside the creature's guard quickly. He thrusts the Titan sword forward with explosive, focused force, piercing the demon's knee joint cleanly. The blessed blade severs thick, dark tendrils. The entity stumbles heavily, its colossal weight suddenly unsupported, crashing down onto the shattered stone with immense force. The massive impact sends deep tremors through the entire subterranean complex. Draigo withdraws his glowing blade smoothly, already moving efficiently to his next optimal striking position. The air pressure drops suddenly within the chamber. A massive, unstable psychic anomaly begins to form at the very center of the warp rift, hinting at a new devastation. The erratic pulsation of the rift reaches a blinding, unstable crescendo. Supreme Grand Master, Draigo raises his silver gauntlet, signaling an immediate halt to the relentless barrage. The roaring cacophony of mass reactive fire ceases abruptly, leaving a sudden, deafening vacuum of absolute silence in its wake. The immense dimensional tear shudders violently. It struggles against the heavy psychic anchors driven deep into the bedrock by the paladins. With a final, agonizing screech of tearing reality, the breach collapses inward, sealing the material universe shut. The sudden stabilization of physics triggers a massive atmospheric implosion, sweeping dark ash across the ruined nave. Only the rhythmic, heavy mechanical breathing of the Grey Knights breaks the oppressive stillness. They stand resolute amidst utter devastation, their silver ceramite armor glowing faintly in the dim, returning light. The once magnificent subterranean basilica lies in absolute ruin, its soaring, vaulted ceilings stripped. Huge chunks of pulverized adamantium and shattered obsidian litter the deeply scarred floor, forming treacherous mounds of debris. The ambient temperature remains unnaturally cold. A lingering, spectral frost clings stubbornly to the damaged stonework. Draigo slowly lowers the crackling blade of the Titan sword, its cerulean energy humming with eager anticipation. He sweeps his highly advanced ocular sensors across the devastated chamber, hunting for any residual trace of immaterial corruption. The Auspex scanners mounted on their wrists chime softly. They register chaotic, illogical fluctuations in the local gravitational field. Dust particles hang perfectly suspended in the frozen air, refusing to settle upon the ruined ground. This localized suspension of physics speaks of a deeper, far more insidious anomaly left behind by the banished entities. A seasoned Justicar steps carefully over a pulverized gargoyle. His heavy boots crunch softly against the crystalline frost. He points a heavily armored finger toward the grand altar at the far end of the ruined hall. The massive marble structure is visibly distorted, its physical geometry twisting in ways that actively defy standard optical processing. A strange, dark luminescence bleeds slowly from the cracks. It casts long, unnatural shadows across the rubble. It is not a demonic presence, but a lingering psychic scar upon the fabric of reality itself. Even the formidable, heavily fortified minds of the Adeptus Astartes feel the immense, crushing weight of this lingering wrongness. The air tastes heavily of oxidized copper and stale ozone. It is a phantom sensory echo of the fierce battle recently concluded. Deep within their augmented helms, neurocogitators filter out insidious, whispering frequencies. These fading echoes of the abyss are desperate, formless voices seeking a vessel to anchor themselves within the physical realm. The knights push back the psychic static with practiced, ironclad mental discipline, reciting internal litanies of absolute purity. They approach the distorted altar with extreme caution. Their nemesis force weapons are raised and fully primed. The dark luminescence thickens into a swirling, viscous vapor, stubbornly resisting the purifying auras of the approaching silver giants. Draigo extends his left hand, projecting a focused, tight beam of a psychic light into the heart of the swirling mist. The holy radiance pierces the gloom. It reveals a deeply fractured crystalline matrix embedded directly into the bedrock. It is an artifact of unknown origin, pulsing with a slow, rhythmic heartbeat. The pulse vibrates through the soles of their boots. This strange object does not register as demonic, yet it exudes a profound, ancient aura of cosmic isolation and decay. The Imperium's vast databases hold absolutely no record of such crystalline technology. It remains a dangerous, unpredictable enigma, an infection that mere bolter fire cannot simply erase. Draigo recognizes the severe existential threat posed by this lingering, unclassified anomaly. He unclasps a heavy, lead-lined stasis casket from his armored belt, its exterior covered heavily in complex hexagrammic wards. The casket is designed specifically to contain highly volatile, corrupted artifacts. He manipulates the intricate locking mechanisms with surprising dexterity for heavily armored gauntlets, breaking the holy seals. The casket opens with a sharp hiss of escaping pressure. With precise, deliberate movements, Draigo channels a telekinetic field, carefully lifting the fractured crystalline matrix from its stone resting place. The artifact resists the psychic grip momentarily, emitting a high-pitched harmonic whine that scratches painfully against the mind's ear. He forces the object down into the stasis field, slamming the heavy leaden lid shut. The instant the casket is sealed securely, the localized gravitational anomalies collapse, and the suspended dust falls heavily to the floor. The dark luminescence fades completely, leaving the ruined altar shrouded. The sanctuary has been successfully purged of active threats, but the spiritual foundation of the chamber is forever compromised. The strike squad regroups silently around their supreme Grand Master. They survey the shattered remnants of the once holy site, calculating the necessary structural demolitions required to erase all evidence. The heavy burden of their terrible secrets presses down heavily. A specialized detachment of servitors will soon be deployed to meticulously dismantle the remaining architecture and sanitize the entire area. Promethium charges will be planted deep within the foundational support pillars. The very memory of this location must be erased from the planetary archives, buried forever beneath millions of tons of rubble. The Grey Knights will depart as silently as they arrived. Draigo activates his encrypted Vox feed, establishing a secure, tight-beam uplink to the strike cruiser orbiting silently in the void above. The breach is sealed, and the primary anomaly has been successfully secured. Initiate the containment protocols for the surrounding sector. No mortal eyes may witness the aftermath of this celestial incursion. He issues the devastating command without a single tremor of hesitation, as the teleportation matrices cycle up, bathing the knights in a blinding flare of raw, blue energy. The chamber falls silent. The sanctuary is left entirely to the creeping dark. The teleportation flare dissipates from my mind's eye as I blink away the lingering psychic resonance. I return to the confines of the Inquisition's deepest archival vault. The oppressive silence returns. I slide the crumbling vellum scroll back into its lid-lined containment cylinder. The brass locking mechanisms lock into place, sealing the terrifying historical truth away from the vulnerable galaxy. A hovering servo-skull drifts past my shoulder, its optical sensors projecting a harsh scanning beam across the iron bookshelves. The mechanical whir of its anti-gravitic engine offers the only companion. The Grey Knights represent the pinnacle of human, martial, and spiritual perfection, an incorruptible shield against the encroaching dark. They stand unyielding upon the precipice of madness. Their victories go unrecorded in the public halls of the administratum, or celebrated upon the smog-choked hive worlds. Their heroic sacrifices remain unsung by the devout choirs of the ecclesiarchy. When a Grey Knight falls in desperate combat, his broken physical form is recovered quietly, returned silently to the frozen catacombs beneath the icy crust of Titan. Yet, the true horror of their existence does not stem from their eternal grinding war against the infinite demonic tides. The deepest tragedy lies in the uncompromising price demanded by their secrecy. The harsh dictates of the Ordo Malleus require the merciless suppression of any civilian population exposed to the demonic threat. To witness the silver giants descend from the heavens is a sentence. The Grey Knights turn their crackling weaponry upon the very innocent souls they just saved from chaotic corruption. They execute the Emperor's grim peace without a moment of hesitation. It is a soul-crushing duty, a heavy cross of guilt borne silently in the name of systemic survival. Without their silent vigil, the fragile fabric of the material universe would tear apart. I push the lead cylinder back into its designated stasis slot upon the iron shelf. The magnetic clamps engage with a definitive thud. The secret war persists, a grinding, brutal conflict. I reach out with trembling fingers and pinch the burning wick of the solitary yellow candle, plunging the immediate area into impenetrable shadow. The darkness rushes in to fill the void. I step away from the massive iron shelves, my scholar's robes sweeping softly across the worn stone floor. I walk entirely alone through the echoing corridors, carrying terrifying, glorious truths. The wider galaxy remains ignorant of the horrors lurking just beyond the veil, and therefore the galaxy remains fundamentally safe. They are protected by the anonymous silver-clad giants. Knowing of their existence is a strict, unavoidable death sentence, but without them, all of humanity would have perished in agony long ago. Imperator Gloria in excelsis terra. Leave a subscription and share this hidden record if you are truly willing to trade your fragile memories for absolute knowledge of the Emperor's greatest weapon.